For over 15 years, one rivalry has dominated technology. Not PlayStation versus Xbox, not Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, but Samsung versus iPhone. Two giants, two completely different philosophies, one trying to perfect simplicity, the other pushing endless innovation. One was born in a garage-like startup culture in California, the other rose up from a massive industrial empire in South Korea. And somehow, they changed how billions of people live. But how did this war begin? Why are people so loyal to one side, and which company is actually winning? This is the story of Samsung and iPhone. Now, before we step into the smartphone war, I want to make sure you guys subscribe, like, and share my video. Apple's beginning. To understand iPhone, you first need to understand Apple. Apple Inc. was formed in 1976 by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. At first, Apple wasn't making phones, they made computers, and Steve Jobs believed technology should feel magical. While other computers looked complicated, technical, Apple focused on beauty, simplicity, and experience. But by the 1990s, Apple was struggling badly. The company was close to collapse. Then Steve Jobs returned in 1997, and everything changed. First came the colorful iMac, then the iPod, then the iTunes. Apple wasn't just selling products anymore, it was building an ecosystem. And soon Jobs wanted to reinvent the phone itself. Now let's jump into Samsung's beginning. Samsung began in 1938, decades before smartphone even existed. And surprisingly, Samsung didn't start with electronics. It started as a trading company selling groceries, noodles, and dried fish in Daegu. That makes me feel hungry. Its founder, Lee Byung-chul, slowly expanded the company into insurance, textiles, construction, and eventually electronics. By the 1980s and 1990s, Samsung became famous for TVs, semiconductors, and appliances. Unlike Apple's few premium products strategy, Samsung believed in scale. Make many products, complete everywhere, dominate every market as possible, and eventually, that strategy led Samsung into phones. Chapter 2. The birth of the iPhone. January 9th, 2007. A moment that changed history forever. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and introduced the first iPhone. A touchscreen phone, an iPod, an internet communicator, all in one device. At the time, phones had keyboards, tiny screens, and styluses. The iPhone removed almost all buttons. It felt futuristic. But while the first iPhone lacked features like copy-paste, multitasking, and even an Apple Store at launch, people were amazed. Because Apple understood something competitors didn't. Phones wasn't just tools anymore. They were becoming extensions of human life. Soon came the Apple Store, and suddenly, developers everywhere could create apps for millions of users. That changed everything. Chapter 3. Samsung Strikes Back. Samsung saw the future immediately. At first, Samsung experimented with many phone designs. But after the iPhone exploded in popularity, Samsung doubled down on smartphones. Then came the Samsung Galaxy S line. Bigger screens, expandable storage, custom features, more hardware freedom, and unlike Apple, Samsung embraced Android. Google's Android operating system allowed Samsung to innovate quickly and release many different devices every year. Soon the rivalry became brutal. Apple focused on control and simplicity, Samsung focused on variety and innovation, and consumers picked sides almost like sports teams. Chapter 4. Different Philosophies. Apple's philosophy. Apple believes technology should just work. That's why iPhones are tightly controlled. Apple designs the hardware, the software, the chips, even the ecosystem. This gives iPhone several advantages: smooth performance, long software support, strong app optimization, high security, easy connection with other Apple devices, features like AirDrop, iMessage, FaceTime, and the Apple Watch ecosystem make users stay loyal. But critics say Apple can also be restrictive. No expandable storage, limited customization, high prices, and sometimes removing features users love, like headphone jack. Samsung's philosophy. Samsung takes almost the opposite approach. Samsung wants options. Big phones, small phones, foldable phones, budget phones, ultra phones. Samsung often introduces experimental features years before Apple. Foldable screens, reverse wireless charging, stylus supports, 100 times zoom cameras, split camera multitasking. Samsung phones are almost customizable. Android users can change launchers, widgets, themes, and deeper settings. But critics argue Samsung adds too many features, and that some older devices slow down or lose support faster than iPhones. Chapter 5. The leaders who shaped them. No discussion about Apple is complete without Steve Jobs. He was demanding, perfectionist, sometimes controversial, but his obsession with design helped create products that felt revolutionary. After Jobs passed away in 2011, Tim Cook became CEO. Unlike Jobs, Cook focused heavily on operations, stability, services, and global expansion. Under Tim Cook, Apple became one of the richest companies in history. The Samsung's leadership story is different. The company stayed closely connected to the Lee family for generations. Leaders like Lee Kun-hee transformed Samsung into a global tech powerhouse. He famously told employees, "Change everything except your wife and children." Samsung aggressively invested in displays, memory chips, and manufacturing. That investment helped Samsung become one of the most powerful electronic companies on earth. Interestingly, Samsung even manufactures components used inside iPhones. Yes, we can see the rivals actually depend on each other. Chapter 6: Controversies and Criticisms. Apple has faced criticisms for years. Some accuse the company of overpricing products, being anti-repair, controlling the App Store too tightly, creating a closed ecosystem. There have also been debates around battery throttling, whether Apple intentionally slows older phones. Apple says the decisions are meant to improve performance and user experience. Still, critics remain skeptical. Samsung criticisms. Samsung had controversies too. One of the biggest was Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 disaster in 2016. Some batteries overheated and caught fire. The crisis became global news. Samsung recalled millions of devices and suffered major financial and reputational damage. But many experts say Samsung recovered surprisingly well. The company improved battery testing, continued innovating aggressively. Samsung has also been criticized for software bloating, too many phone models, inconsistent updates, speeds in the past. Chapter 7: The Camera War. I'm sure many of you have been waiting for this. One of the biggest battles today is cameras. While Apple focuses on natural colors, video quality, consistency, social media optimization, and Samsung focuses on high megapixel counts, zoom technology, bright dramatic photos, experimental camera hardware. Some people prefer the realistic look of iPhone phones. Others love Samsung's vibrant style. And honestly, most flagship phones today are so advanced that the differences are becoming similar every day. Ecosystems and addiction. Here's the secret many people miss. The real battle isn't just about phones anymore, it's ecosystems. Apple wants users connected through MacBooks, iPads, AirPods, Apple Watches, iCloud services. Samsung counters with Galaxy Buds, Galaxy Watches, smart TVs, tablets, smart home systems. Once users enter an ecosystem, living becomes difficult. And that loyalty is worth billions. Chapter 9: Who is winning? So who is winning? It depends how you measure it. Samsung often sells phones globally because it covers many prices in ranges. Apple usually makes more profit because iPhones are premium products with extreme loyalty customers. Samsung dominates hardware innovation, Apple dominates ecosystem integration and software optimization. Both change the world and both continue influencing the future of AI, wearables, chips, and smart devices. The rivalry was never just about technology, it became culture, identity, status, creativity, innovation, social media influence, and even though fans argue endlessly online, the truth is simple. Without Samsung, Apple might innovate slower. Without Apple, Samsung might never have pushed so hard. Together they stopped the modern world and shaped it. So now the question is, which side are you on? Samsung or iPhone? like for Samsung, and make sure you subscribe for iPhone. Thank you for watching So Incredible. Make sure you subscribe, like, and make sure you share the video. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.